If you don't see an opportunity available right now, please keep networking and keep looking at the career site, because most of our hiring partners are able to forecast what their needs are in advance. And I find myself talking with candidates at hiring events, and sometimes I have to tell them, I don't know that this is the right role for you, but I know that there's a role coming down the pike in the next 3 weeks that I think you would be absolutely perfect for.
Welcome to Security Cleared Jobs, Who's Hiring and How, the podcast for cleared professionals looking for new opportunities and career advice. We go behind the scenes with recruiters and hiring managers from leading cleared employers to uncover the information you need to make a smart career move. Get ready for insights from this week's guest and your hosts, Kathleen Smith and Rachel Bozeman.
This episode was recorded prior to Oasis Systems announcing their new name, Astrion. Hello and welcome to our podcast. This is Ashley. I'm the producer of the show and usually behind the scenes, but today I'm up front and filling in for Kathleen.
Well, Ashley, you are not doing yourself justice. You're not just behind the scenes or the producer. You are simply amazing, and so excited to have you riding shotgun as we get to talk to a new friend today that I know you're all going to be dying to hear from.
And that guest, in fact, is another Ashley, a sister Ashley, fellow Ashley. She's Ashley Owens, and she is a recruiter for the cyber division of Oasis Systems. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Well, we are so excited to have you today. And something we always like to start with, I don't think we've met a recruiter to date that ever says, when I was little, I dreamed of being a recruiter. There's always some twists and turns that kind of take you on that career path from, dreaming of things of grandeur to becoming an amazing recruiter. So would you tell us a little bit about your interesting journey on how you became a cyber recruiter? I feel like it needs to be said like that, cyber recruiter.
Oh, absolutely. And I can attest that us cyber recruiters definitely add in cyber at every opportunity. And no, I didn't necessarily wake up one day and say, I want to be in recruiting, nor did I specifically emphasize cyber recruiting. But I did identify that I really had a strong passion for connecting people to opportunities early on. And I think that is likely because I am a military spouse, and I found myself very early in my career having to relocate from California all the way to upstate New York. And so what I realized was I didn't have a network, and I didn't really have a strong community there. And I was still new in my career. I had recently transferred to a New York State university. I was in my undergrad, and as you do early on in your career, I quickly realized I needed experience to bolster my resume. And I started volunteering. I started applying to become an intern everywhere that I could. I joined clubs. I did everything that I could in order to start gaining that experience. I stumbled upon this volunteer opportunity at the Army Career Readiness Center at Fort Drum, New York, where I was given the opportunity to help veterans and their family members rewrite their resumes in order to find success in the civilian sector. I realized that that was something that I really loved to do. I ended up with an amazing opportunity to work for a veteran nonprofit. And there I was able to work with all types of partners. Ultimately, I worked with over 500 companies that ranged from Fortune 500 to Fortune 1000 to government contractor to nonprofit to federal direct hire. All of these companies had a strong desire to hire veterans and military spouses. And that's really what started my full career in what I would identify as recruiting. That led me to Amazon Web Services, where I led a military program. And then I myself had to use my own skills and pivot when layoffs started happening. Luckily, I found myself at Oasis Systems due to some networking and identifying a lot of colleagues that had followed a similar path as me that ended up at Oasis Systems. And I've been incredibly lucky. It's one of the best experiences that I possibly could have asked for. And now I have really immersed myself within what we like to call GovCon recruiting, cyber recruiting, specifically within the DoD and federal entity community. So most of the recruiting that I do, in fact, I'd say 99.9% is cleared recruiting, military, non-military, as long as they are fantastic candidates, qualified, and interested in this line of work. I am more than happy to work with candidates to help them find their next career.
Awesome. What a great recap. And now I'd love to hear a little bit more specifically about where you have ended up. And I know that we're referring to you all as Oasis Systems at the moment, but I hear that there might be a rebrand in the works, a little bit of a name change coming up. So tell us more about that and also what you all do in the cleared community.
Absolutely, and I'm so glad that you brought that up. Oasis Systems has been around for 30 years. With a couple of different names, as contractors sometimes do. To include, we will have a new name that we are announcing very soon. We are very, very excited. Oasis Systems is now deemed a large-scale government contractor. And with that, that means that we have to grow, scale, and innovate. And so we are so excited for the 2024 year in order to be able to do so and make a big impact. We do focus on providing mission essential technology and engineering services to Department of Defense and federal entities. We are most known for the work that we do with the FAA, NASA, and the United States Air Force. However, we have a number of really amazing and sometimes very nuanced customers that we work with. So many opportunities. 99% of them are going to be cleared. We collectively operate across air, space, land, and sea. So we really have all of your bases covered, literally and figuratively. Though we do find that the highest volume of opportunities will be found within engineering and cybersecurity, as that is going to be the root of what Oasis Systems offers to our customers. Even though we do have most of our opportunities within cybersecurity and engineering centric domains, like any other business, we still have opportunities in human resources, security, finance, management, and other business essential roles to keep our operations running smoothly. A lot of those roles still either require a clearance or we often will sponsor clearances.
That's awesome. Well, you mentioned kind of a whole potpourri of different positions that you're currently hiring for, and some of those different requirements, the bulk of it being that security clearance. But what other type of skill sets? So when you talk about engineering and cybersecurity, those are big buckets. But what are those particular roles that you're hiring for, and some skill sets that our friends might be interested in learning about?
Cybersecurity really does run the gamut, right? And so when we talk about cyber and we talk about all of the different flavors, some say IT, some say cyber, some debate on how cybersecurity is spelled, right?
Mhm.
So we have all of these different opinions. I will tell you that it does truly run the gamut. And so what that means is at any given moment, we typically will almost always have an opportunity open that is engineering centric in some way, shape, or form. That could be systems engineering, that could be cyber security, test engineering. There are so many different opportunities, but I do find that more often than not, our team is always looking for those with a background in software, specifically software automation, software testing. Those are somewhat newer within the industry, and those are areas where we're really looking to innovate moving forward. We also work a lot with the U.S. Air Force, and when you think about the types of mission critical roles they have, that could be a communications security role. That's something that I'm working on right now. That could be software test automation, as I mentioned earlier. It could be a system administrator. It could be an IT project manager, or it could be a financial manager. These are all roles that I'm recruiting for concurrently this week. So it really is going to be all different types of opportunities. And what I tell candidates all the time is, if you don't see an opportunity available right now, please keep networking and keep looking at the career site, because most of our hiring partners are able to forecast what their needs are in advance. And I find myself talking with candidates at hiring events or during pre-screen calls or over email. And sometimes I have to tell them, I don't know that this is the right role for you, but I know that there's a role coming down the pike in the next 3 weeks that I think you would be absolutely perfect for. And so with that, I definitely always want to plug in that networking, because you never know when the opportunity that you're looking for that best aligns with your skill set will become available. And, staying on top of some of the different news articles about what Oasis Systems or the company at hand is going to be working on over the next couple of months, you're often able to identify, I bet since they just won that new contract that they're going to have some pretty high needs in this area in the next couple of months. So there are certain mechanisms for candidates to start to guess or start to forecast what's likely to come open based on what the market rate trends are and what the trends are for the company at hand.
Absolutely. Fantastic advice. Don't sleep on it, friends. Get out there and look, ask questions. Recruiters are there to answer those questions, to have those really important conversations about what might be available now, but future state, and some things you can do to get ready for that. But I know something that they're always curious about is, where in the heck are these positions located? And dare I say, are any, you guessed it, remote?
Yes, absolutely. So we have over 20 locations, CONUS and OCONUS. I will share with you the top 5 because I think that's going to be most helpful in terms of where the highest volume is. And that's going to be Eglin Air Force Base, that's in Florida, Lackland Air Force Base, that's in Texas, Hanscom Air Force Base, and Langley Air Force Base. So you're talking about the DC metro area, and then Huntsville, Alabama, and then Wright Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio. So technically I gave you 6, but those are all locations that we constantly have our highest volume at. Doesn't mean that we won't have other sites, for example, Edwards Air Force Base. In terms of remote opportunities, I will tell you that Oasis Systems does fall a little bit more on the hybrid side as compared to your typical remote. At this very moment, when we do have remote opportunities, they tend to be in cybersecurity, and they go very, very quickly.
Yeah, I can imagine those would go very quickly. And next, I'd love to talk to you about your greatest hiring needs. And I know we've already talked a good amount about all of the different kinds of cleared positions that you're hiring for, but just to make sure that we paint a full picture for everyone listening, what are some of the greatest hiring needs? Something that maybe you're hiring for all the time because of a certain contract. Something that if someone is listening and they raise their hand and say, I do that, then there's a good chance that you have a position for them.
Absolutely. And that would go back to really any flavor of cybersecurity or software and systems engineering. Out of 300 vacancies that we have open right now, I would put money on most of them having engineering within the title, some way, shape, or form. And so we definitely have high needs for individuals that tend to be STEM oriented or who have had experience that is going to really translate well with the customers and the type of work that we do right now. And so there's a number of roles that I would be able to share with you in terms of the types. Most of them are going to be related some way, shape, or form to some type of IT, cyber, software. So I'd say in terms of the mix-up, 70% of them would lean a little bit more on the technical side, but a good 30% of them are going to be your typical support roles that any company needs. And the nice thing is you do get that exposure to those technical elements. So if you're someone that is looking at maybe dipping your toes in, I would definitely look at some of those supporting roles, whether they be administrative or logistics or finance or planning, because that is a great way of getting your foot in the door and then moving over. And in fact, recently, I was given the opportunity to have a talk with a current employee, their current manager. That current employee really wants to move into a little bit more on the technical side of software. And so even though that candidate, that employee, isn't necessarily immediately there yet in terms of having the skills to hit the ground running, the team was able to then communicate and identify a growth plan so that that employee can work towards that goal, and we're able to grow our own talent internally. So for those, that are listening, that are thinking, well, that all sounds great, but I've never done engineering before. That's okay. There are alternative ways of really getting your foot in the door and working your way up to some very technical roles that maybe at one point you thought was off the radar, but certainly doesn't need to be.
Well, I am definitely picking up all that you're putting down today and appreciating all the extra tidbits on ways that folks can be successful. But I want to kind of go a little a different path and talk recruiter for a second because, as recruiters, we like to talk, but sometimes we love to commiserate and celebrate together when we have an incredibly challenging role that comes to fruition. We're able to find that needle in the haystack. We're able to get a role filled. So I think our listeners would definitely love to hear a little bit more about maybe a role that kept you up at night, maybe many nights in a row, but you were able to get filled. Why was it challenging? What was the role? How'd you do it?
Yes, I could probably list about 5 right now, but I'll limit myself. I am going to give you 2 though. One would be data link test engineers. Data link is simply a small community and tends to be very nuanced. So if you are in data link, please make yourself known because those are terms that I can promise you, not only myself, but probably at least 5 other recruiters on my team will look for on a daily basis. Along with that goes model-based systems engineers. So again, those roles are simply very nuanced. You don't find as many candidates that have system engineering experience, but also happen to have, an emphasis in model-based systems that typically requires a degree in either physics or some other STEM application. We know that we have to market these roles a bit more. We know that we're probably going to have a few less candidates applying. So we often will contact as many candidates as possible and try to be respectful and identify alignment with that candidate's background and the role that we have. And often I find myself saying, if this isn't the right role for you, I completely understand. Perhaps you know someone in your network that could be looking. And we've had some pretty amazing success by doing so. But when it comes to data link, or we call them MBSE roles, model-based system engineers, those are two roles that I can tell you I am actively looking for on a daily basis and have been since I started.
Awesome. Well, hopefully we can help you find some more of those two roles if anyone listening is qualified for the gig. And something there that you touched on, the networking piece, I'm so glad that you brought that up because listeners, even if a recruiter talks to you about a role that maybe isn't quite up your alley, let your network know. Networking is a two-way street. So next up on the agenda, we would love to hear you discuss SkillBridge. We have heard that about half of your employees are veterans, and that's something that we love to hear as a veteran-owned company ourselves here at ClearedJobs.Net. But you do have a lot of experience with SkillBridge, I hear. So tell us more about how the program is implemented over there.
Absolutely. And I do want to take a moment simply to explain for the audience, SkillBridge is an opportunity for transitioning service members to serve in a corporate fellowship with industry partners. And typically they're able to serve anywhere from 3 to 6 months and gain that industry experience on site or virtually. It's an incredible opportunity for not only the service member to gain that experience, but network with the organization before that service member hits the market. You know, before your end of service, we want to give you the opportunity to identify what's out there, to gain that experience, real world experience, and have an opportunity to really add to the resume. And that is so very important for a service member to have an opportunity to gain that as they embark on that next chapter of their lives. I'll tell you that any role at a company theoretically could be an opportunity to serve in a SkillBridge fellowship for. There really are no limits. It doesn't need to be quote unquote entry level. It could be a very senior role. And I've been so very lucky to have an opportunity to oversee this program currently. And we've already hired several of our SkillBridge fellows from the 2023 year. They're all in senior roles right now. A lot of them are test engineers, some of them are program managers, and all within the cyber community thus far. But we do have a couple of other fellows that are still in their fellowship right now, wrapping up, and are set up to receive offers here very, very soon. So it's definitely a fantastic program.
Yeah, that's great to hear, and it sounds like a great opportunity for sure. For our next question, I know that in our prep call, you had a nice way of describing that some folks are either looking to learn, grow, and climb the ladder, while others are maybe looking for that good work-life balance overall. So I hear that you actually have opportunities for both of those different personalities. So do you want to explain that a little bit more for our audience?
Absolutely, absolutely. And some might be familiar with what's called an up and out program. And that's really a focus on you need to be working towards being promoted. Oasis isn't necessarily focused on requiring that all of our employees must work towards that goal, because we understand that there are some individuals that found that perfect role for them, and that's okay. But for the individuals that want to continue to grow, we do offer a variety of paths to support that. One of which is on an annual basis, our employees qualify for over $5,000 in professional development funds. That can be used towards pursuing a degree, that can be used towards becoming certified, renewing certifications, attending conferences. There are so many different ways that you can use that, and it renews every single year. So for those that are looking at, adding to their current resume, adding to their skill set, that's a very important part of what we have here at Oasis. I have also seen employees that have been promoted as quickly as 3 months after being hired on. I will tell you that most of our employees are looking at anywhere between a 12 to 18 month track in terms of being able to be promoted. But like I said, I've seen scenarios as quickly as 3 months. And that really is a testament to the focus of our leaders in wanting to place the right people in the right roles and looking within when we look at promoting before we look externally, so that we're able to retain our employees, some of whom have been here all the 30 years. So really a fantastic opportunity for long-term tenure if that's something that you desire.
Really, really, really cool. And I apologize for the earthquake. It's just continuing over here. Good times indeed. So, while this may be your first time on the podcast with us, you are not a newbie when it comes to AI, and heard that you have some phenomenal, tremendous, even in fact, advice for candidates when it comes to using AI in their clear job search. Tell us more.
AI tools are often no cost or low cost. And really, the way that I view them is it's a personal assistant for you and an incredible mechanism to save yourself a lot of time and a lot of headaches. I use it on a daily basis as a recruiter right now. And I can tell you that you as a candidate can apply a lot of the same mechanisms. So for example, Grammarly is considered to be AI, and you're able to download and add plugins so that Grammarly does start looking at your grammar and your context of what you're typing, not only in your emails, but also, let's say when you're at a virtual hiring event and you're corresponding back and forth with a recruiter. Sometimes the recruiters are a little specific about spelling and grammar. AI will look at what you're writing in real time, say, I don't recommend you say this. Try this instead. And while you can take a segment of what the AI is recommending and still make it your own, that can simply be a nice reminder of, hey, by the way, you might want to take a look at this before you hit send. That's going to save you a lot of heartburn. You can also use AI tools to tailor your resume. That is something that you absolutely must do, because whether it is a resume parser or a human recruiter, they are all looking for the keywords that they are seeing on that position description. You don't have to take all of that burden on yourself. You are able to use a lot of these tools, and I can tell you, you don't want to use the tool and simply say, I trust you, you're good to go. But you're able to use AI and let's say add in a prompt. I'd like to reject this offer, but do so respectfully. And within 30 seconds, you will have 4 paragraphs with sentences that you can pick from to help you get an idea of what to say. While you're not going to copy and paste that whole script verbatim, because recruiters know when you are copying and pasting the script verbatim, I highly recommend using segments of that because it simply helps you navigate the process a bit faster. We're in an environment where recruiters are moving faster, therefore candidates must move faster as well. So using AI is simply allowing you to level that playing field. There are 2 that I would absolutely recommend downloading today. One would be Grammarly, and then the other would be ChatGPT. Please don't do so on a government computer.
Oh my goodness, and I'm so sad that we're about to wrap things up here because I would love to talk to you about using AI in job search all afternoon. I think that's just so incredibly fascinating. But one question that has been weighing on my mind ever since you mentioned it towards the beginning of our conversation is how do you spell cybersecurity? Do you go for the one or two word variation?
I've seen both, and I go based on whomever I am working with. And I recommend the same for candidates. As you see it spelled on the description or whomever you're working with, I simply adopt the same nomenclature so that I'm able to speak their lingo.
Great little bonus tip there. Well, Ashley, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
LinkedIn, please connect with me on LinkedIn. We have a lot of content that I will be sharing, whether it is this podcast or other amazing opportunities or different things that we're working on. So please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn.
You heard it here first, friends. Go on LinkedIn, find our friend Miss Ashley. So, Ashley, sincerely, from the bottom of the other Ashley's heart and mind, thank you for spending a little time with us this afternoon. I know we learned a lot and really appreciate you stopping by.
Absolutely. Thank you both.
So, Ashley, the other Ashley, I'll remind you, was a wealth of knowledge, and we had so much fun talking to her today. I'll play Kathleen here for a minute. I know she loves to talk about the veteran aspects whenever they come up, so I was really thrilled to talk about SkillBridge. I know we've written blogs on that. We've talked about it on the podcast, on our Military Monday series. SkillBridge is a fantastic opportunity, so if you're still in the service and looking to maybe do something like that in your last 180 days of service, check it out. Talk to Ashley, see if there's an opportunity for you there at Oasis. And like I said, I could talk about the AI incorporation into job search all afternoon. That just sounds so cool. And I know in the last several months, you hear ChatGPT all the time. It's popping up in every website, every application you go on, they've got some form of AI suddenly in there. But, it's not just for cutting corners. It's also for getting a second set of eyes on your resume and proofreading. What about you, Rachel?
Well, I think Ashley did a beautiful job of really peppering in phenomenal advice kind of throughout all of her responses, talking about the organization and the different roles, the clients, the contractor, just everywhere. There was so much good information. But really, what kind of resonated with me was the very beginning of our conversation when she talked about her career path and her career journey. And something she said, I think, is something so valuable that if people could open their ears for just a second and listen to the importance of, kind of taking those risks, putting yourself out there, because none of us really know what we want to do when we grow up, right? Like we're always kind of searching for what's going to be our next big step, but really willing to put yourself out there, try those different opportunities, kind of spaghetti it when it comes to internships or fellowships, really seeking to understand, but understanding that, all of those other pieces are important, but it's really that experience that's going to set you apart from other candidates. And she mirrored it not only in her example, but really in her life. And I thought that was a really good testimony to something that you can kind of put forward as you look for your next best career. So hopefully you learned so very much from our friend Ashley as well. But we appreciate you very much and learn something new every day and want to share it with you. So the only way you're going to hear it is if you get out there and you listen and you tell all your friends that this is the spot to learn about who's hiring and where you should go to apply. See you next time.